Hello, you're watching TVP World, and this is the Global News Bulletin. My name is Sasha Farbach. U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to meet with Chinese leader Xi Jinping in South Korea on Thursday, with a wide array of issues to be discussed between the two. Trade will most likely be at the top of the agenda, as well as the war in Ukraine and Beijing's involvement in fentanyl trafficking. China, the world's largest rare earths producer and refiner, recently introduced tight export controls on the precious minerals. In response, Washington threatened 100% tariffs on Chinese goods, on top of already imposed 20% tariffs linked specifically to the issue of fentanyl. Negotiators from both administrations say a preliminary consensus has already been reached, and the meeting could finally bring an end to the trade war between the two global superpowers. Trump also said he would like to urge Xi to help bring an end to the war in Ukraine. However, officials are less optimistic when speaking on that particular issue. When Washington issued sanctions on Russian oil companies last week, Beijing criticized the move, saying it was against international law. Finally, Trump hinted he would like to speak to Xi about Taiwan, but neither administration is likely to move on this issue. U.S. President Donald Trump expressed hope that Chinese leader Xi Jinping could help pressure Russia to end its war in Ukraine. Ahead of the expected meeting between the two leaders, TVP World asked American foreign policy analyst Daniel Hamilton just how likely it is for Beijing to move away from Moscow.
I think this notion that you can break the Chinese and the Russians off against each other somehow in some diplomatic, magic is very hard to see. But there are, by playing both sides and their own incentives and their own concerns, the U.S. has some leverage. So, about 80% of Russia's ability to circumvent the sanctions is because China is supplying them with everything they need to do that. So if the president can say to the Chinese, that's not the best strategy here, we're going to have to, punish you on the energy issues and so on, that might have some effect. But Xi has his own interests in a relationship with Putin that go beyond sort of the U.S. dynamic. And I think the Chinese are embarrassed, though, by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I think they don't quite know what to do with it. They have to support it, but they really, would prefer that it's also done. So there's some leeway there, I think, for deft diplomacy, but it's not going to be a magic turnaround. And one visit with Xi Jinping isn't going to change everything.
During Donald Trump's visit to Japan, Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi gifted the U.S. president a golf club which belonged to Takaichi's predecessor, Shinzo Abe. The meeting between the two officials was held at the Akasaka Palace, marking Trump's first visit to the palace since being hosted by Abe in 2019. Apart from the putter, Donald Trump was also gifted a golf bag signed by Japanese major winner Hideki Matsuyama and gold leaf golf ball. The White House posted a picture to its social media of two baseball caps with the words, "Japan is back." The gifts and Takaichi's reference to Shinzo Abe bring back memories of a close bond forged when Trump and the assassinated Japanese Prime Minister spent hours golfing together during Trump's first term in office. Coincidentally, the trial of the man accused of shooting Abe began on Tuesday in Takaichi's hometown of Nara. For more on the EU's plans to lessen its dependency on Chinese rare earths, stay tuned to TV World and World Talks with Alicia Bachoska, a policy fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations, this morning at 10:45 a.m. Lithuania will take down balloons smuggling contraband and crossing the border from Belarus after a spate of incursions into the Baltic nation's airspace. That's according to Prime Minister Inga Ruginiene, who has also effectively closed her country's line of contact with the Russian ally state. As Agata Dura reports, the balloons carrying illegal cigarettes have forced the closure of Vilnius airport 4 times just in the last week.
If another such balloon crosses into Lithuanian airspace, it is going to be shut down. This is the latest decision by the government in Vilnius.
No hybrid attacks will be tolerated in Lithuania. We will take the harshest measures to stop such attacks.
We're not talking about lasers, although we certainly will have those in the future. We're talking about a kinetic device which, when the airspace is violated, releases gas toward the incoming object, causing it to fall.
The hot air balloons carry contraband cigarettes. Andrzej Derlatka, former chief of the Polish Foreign Intelligence Agency, says that the balloons are being chosen deliberately. They are hard to shoot down.
It is ongoing hybrid war. We are victims of the attacks of Russian special services and Belarusians.
And even though the balloons came from Belarus, the decision to send them was not made in Minsk.
Belarus doesn't exist as an independent country. And what has happened with the policy of Belarus means that Russia make it.
The seemingly harmless balloons are causing a lot of disruptions, and they translate to trouble for regular people. The Vilnius airport was closed 4 times just last week.
We are all very angry. All of my colleagues had checked luggage. Their belongings were in their checked luggage, which was not returned to them. People were unable to change their clothes or access their belongings for 40 hours.
And while inconvenience is one thing, serious threats to health are another.
Others needed to take medication that was in their checked luggage.
Consequently, Lithuanian authorities are closing land border crossings with Belarus until further notice. In practice, the borders have been closed since the weekend, but the government is set to make the official decision on Wednesday. This decision, however, will not only affect the regime.
We specialize in international transport. We employ nearly 400 people, more than 200 of whom are Belarusian citizens. They also live there. This decision will create many problems, resulting in disruptions to supply chains. It's important to remember that drivers from Belarus make up nearly 30% of the workforce in this industry.
Lithuania, a former Soviet republic in a small country bordering Belarus and Russia's Kaliningrad region, is a NATO eastern flank country and one of the European Union's eastern borders. That's why experts believe that such incursions must be taken seriously. For TVP World, I'm Agata Dura.
Ukraine will expand attacks on targets deep inside Russia using its own long-range weapons, Volodymyr Zelenskyy said on Monday. The Ukrainian president posted the announcement on X after meeting with his staff and weapons manufacturers.
The main topic was our capabilities for the long-range sanctions against Russia. Weapons manufacturers and all those responsible for employing these weapons took part. We reviewed the effectiveness of our long-range strikes over a defined period and the results achieved. Russian oil refining is already paying a tangible price for the war, and will pay even more. We set tasks to expand the geography for the use of our long-range capabilities. We are working closely with manufacturers on long-term contracts. The 3-year term allows manufacturers to better plan the use of necessary resources and scale up supplies to the military.
Now let's move to defense cooperation. Turkey has signed a deal with the UK to buy 20 Eurofighter Typhoon jets for $10.7 billion.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer met President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Ankara on Monday to sign the agreement. The purchase comes as Turkey seeks to leverage the advanced warplanes to make up ground with regional rivals such as Israel, which has unleashed strikes across the Middle East this year. Earlier on Monday, Starmer visited an airbase outside the Turkish capital. In addition to acquiring Eurofighters, Turkey is also reportedly interested in potentially buying US-made F-35s to bolster its aging fleet of mostly F-16 jets.
Romania has further boosted NATO-led air policing missions along the alliance's eastern flank with a new F-16 squadron, according to the country's Ministry of Defense.
The 48th Fighter Squadron began air policing missions in Romanian airspace on October 20th. A Romanian Ministry of Defense statement said the aim of the missions is to ensure the integrity of Romanian airspace, defend NATO's eastern flank and reflect Romania's firm commitment to collective security. There are currently 3 fighter squadrons conducting NATO-led air policing missions in the country, 2 Romanian squadrons and a detachment of the German Air Force consisting of 5 Typhoon aircraft.
Bulgaria and German arms manufacturing powerhouse Rheinmetall are set to announce the launch of a brand new gunpowder and ammunition plant on Tuesday. The factory is to bring Bulgaria's defense industry up to speed and, according to the Bulgarian government, bears strategic importance for the whole of Europe. Worth 500 million euros, the investment is to be implemented through a joint venture between Rheinmetall and the VMZ ordnance plant in Sopot under a 51-49 partnership, dubbed part of the European Union and NATO's efforts to strengthen Europe's defense capabilities and strategic autonomy. The plant is to produce gunpowder, 155mm artillery shells, and modular charge systems. The Bulgarian government expects the project to bring economic growth, development of next-generation production capacities, and nearly 1,000 new, highly qualified jobs. Two Ukrainians have been arrested in southern Poland, standing accused of spying for a foreign intelligence service. Authorities allege the pair have been gathering information on the country's military and critical infrastructure. Randy Potts reports.
2 Ukrainian nationals have been detained in Poland on suspicion of spying for a foreign intelligence service, authorities in Warsaw said Monday morning.
Classified data was gathered on soldiers of the Polish Armed Forces, critical infrastructure located on the territory of the Republic of Poland, including transport infrastructure providing logistical and military support to Ukraine, and covert tracking of critical infrastructure.
Poland's civilian counterintelligence agency said the Ukrainians also received payment for their work.
These individuals were spying, gathering information. Among other things, they were installing cameras or photo traps along key transport routes. The suspects were interested in military facilities, but also critical and transport infrastructure in Poland.
The 2 Ukrainian nationals were charged with readiness to work for a foreign intelligence service and collecting sensitive information, a crime subject to imprisonment from 6 months to 8 years. Poland has been on high alert for cases of espionage and sabotage, which in many cases authorities have linked directly to Russia or its close ally, Belarus. Just last week, 2 Ukrainians were detained on suspicion of an alleged new plan to send exploding parcels, this time to Ukraine. And in Gdynia, Poland, a man was accused of anti-Ukrainian attacks. Poland has also experienced attacks on a shopping mall and an incident of sabotage at a Polish train station.
When I hear some politicians in Europe saying we have to start today already, thinking how we will rebuild our relations with Russia one day, for me it's always like an alarm bell. You can't live under this sweet illusion that you are too far away from them, that it's not your war, it's just Ukraine or Poland.
Though some European countries are still disregarding the Russian threat, in Poland the reality of that threat is driven home on an almost daily basis. For TVP World, Randy Potts.
The most recent war in the Gaza Strip, which began in 2023, left much of the territory reduced to rubble. Damage also extends to heritage sites, some 2/3 of which have been completely destroyed. Many Gazans believe that this was Israel's attempt to wipe out Gaza's history and memory.
The war between Israel and Hamas has left much of Gaza looking like this. Survivors of the relentless bombing are left amid the ruins, not only of their homes, but also of their cultural and historical identity.
Israeli forces kept bombing and targeting our cultural heritage in an attempt to erase Gaza's memory as an ancient city, a city that reflects the deep-rooted history of Palestine.
During over 730 days of Israeli bombardment, more than 208 of Gaza's 325 heritage sites were destroyed. Among them, ancient mosques, markets bustling with life, and other landmarks which were remnants of thousands of years of heritage in the Middle East.
This hammam was a popular attraction before the war. People used to visit from different parts of Gaza. As you can see, Israeli forces have targeted many historical sites to erase the memory of Gaza, including the Omari Mosque. But we are determined to rebuild it. We've already collected stones for the reconstruction, and we will stay here forever.
Some 70,000 Palestinians were killed in the Israeli attacks on Gaza since 2023, according to the local health authorities. During the Israeli military operation, over 11% of Gaza's population was either killed or wounded. Over 90% of the survivors have been displaced.
That's all for this World News Update, but stay tuned. There's much more coming up right here on TVP World, so don't go away.